All right, here, Primitive Substance Channel, Dennis Young, Linda Smith here, homemade music back in the day, and now she's a phenomena on Bandcamp. Just did a tour of Italy. So, Linda, you're on a roll.
I guess you could call it that, although
Yeah,
it seems more like a bumpy ride.
something. So before we get back to your past, how did the tour go? How did the tour of
Oh,
Italy?
I thought it went fabulous for doing something like that, without, for me, very much experience. The
Right.
people who travel with me, Britta and Paul, they tour fairly frequently, but they have
Okay.
not with their other band, but they have not toured Italy before.
Oh, okay.
So they were seeing the sights as well. I've been there before as a visitor, but not as a musician, and that's a
Right.
very different experience.
Yeah, that's a great country. Well, I had a tour there with the band I played in the 80s. We went to
Uh-huh.
Italy. We went to Naples. That was really wild.
Mhm.
But those people are very passionate about music there.
They are, and I met a fair amount of the musicians there
Okay.
who know about my music and who were helping to get these shows done, and they're it's a whole different attitude, I think, and
Yeah.
than say here. I mean, I know people are passionate about music in this country and in the UK and wherever people listen to music,
Yeah.
but there's a very kind of poetic attitude towards making music, and it's not all about how many shows you do, how many things you release,
Yeah.
trying to
Uh,
get ahead and all this. So it's about the music, and
yeah.
Italy is a country with such a history of music, that it's in the blood, I think.
Yeah, it is. You're
You
right. You're right. So was there a fairly good audience that knew your music that came to the
Well, I
show?
was surprised. I didn't really know what to expect because I haven't communicated with anybody
That's
very
something.
much there, except for Luigi Folligario, who runs the record label I've
Okay.
worked with in the past, and but I didn't know of a lot of fans in Italy who bought music, say on Bandcamp or those areas, and so I didn't really know what to expect as far as an audience that would show up to a live performance.
Yeah.
And I was very, very, very happily surprised by the response. I
That
mean,
is great.
I don't expect, a crowd of even 100 people, but at any show, particularly for me,
Right.
anywhere. But sometimes we might get to that. But the people who showed up, no matter what the number, were were very, very welcoming and responsive.
That is great. So that was fantastic. Now, are you going to plan on going back to Europe one day, or is this just
Well, I hope
or
so. I mean,
yeah,
these things kind of pop up and get planned as we think about them, and somebody suggests something. I think that the next idea is to go to Japan
oh
in the
yeah,
fall,
that's where to go.
and that's where we're working towards now. So,
Oh,
you kind of got, with finances and everything, we're not all rich to be able to do
yeah,
this. You're going to have to put a certain amount of money into this if you want to do it. And for me, it's well worth charging up my credit card. So,
yeah, that's true.
for me at my age at this time, I'm retired, to go and do this finally after many, many years of not even doing music.
That's
It's very
something.
gratifying.
We went to Japan I went to Japan with Liquid in
Hmm.
2009 when we had a week there where and those people are
Nice.
really passionate about music.
Yes, that's going to be
And it's
another
a
experience, I'm
wonderful
sure.
country. People are so
Hmm.
nice and everything's clean and oh, it was fantastic. Tokyo is
Hmm.
like a mass of people and it just really was fun. So if you get
Yes,
over there, that'd be great.
yeah, that's a whole other audience that
Oh
I'm
yeah.
becoming aware of, and I also have a contact there for many years
Oh,
named
do you? Okay. It's great.
Kenji. His name is Kenji, and Sekioka, and he is now starting up his record label, and he's booking some tours over there. So that's that's where we're at, and so for me, it's having a contact there in the first
Oh
place
yeah.
who
Do,
already
do
knows about the music, and then arranging something, and it takes a little while to arrange these things.
yeah, and don't go without a guide. I mean, we had a manager there, a guide who took us
Yeah.
everywhere, booked the
Mm-hmm.
shows, made sure we were at hotels, and make sure you
Uh-huh.
have that because you can get lost pretty quickly there. Not too many
Oh
people
yeah.
understand English.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Well, yeah, there's a fair amount of English in Italy. I mean,
yeah,
and we can communicate to some degree, but yeah, I think Japan, we're going to need some facilitators in that way.
yeah. So let's go back to 1987 when you started doing these homemade recordings in your house on a cassette machine. How did this all start?
Well, actually, I originally started playing in bands in the early '80s and
Okay,
with friends and in Baltimore, and then in 1984 moved to New York City to try to play in a band. I really wanted to try to play in a band in New York City because it had such a history of music and people and things that I had really enjoyed myself over the years, the CBGB scene of the
yeah.
late '70s. And looks like you're breaking up a bit on my side. I just want to
Uh,
let you know that.
I see you okay.
Oh,
There's no problem.
okay. Well,
Yeah, it's
okay.
clear. No
Just
problem.
just just to let you know, but there's
Okay.
some little breakup here in case you do see that down the
No, not
road.
it's not too bad, not bad at all. So,
Okay. So from there, I was in a band for a few years there, from '84 to '87, and bought a 4-track machine because the 4-track machines were just coming out, and I wanted to try to make some demos of songs that I was writing for the band. And as I did that more frequently and started working with the machine, I'd never really done much recording before, and even in a studio. So I didn't, I, the fun of doing that kind of became more of interest to me than the band situations. And
okay.
being in a band is fine, it's great. But I wanted to have a more permanent record of my songs eventually, and I wanted to be able to arrange them myself and see what happened there.
Yeah, well done. I mean, and then so you kept accumulating all this music. When did it finally happen that you decided, did you start putting them out already when you recorded
I
these, or
put
did you wait?
well, I the first cassette I put out was about um, maybe a year after I started working with a 4-track. It might not even have been a year, but the band was over at a
Right.
certain point, and I decided to start recording a proper album of songs just for the 4-track. And
Okay.
that first cassette came out in 1987. I was still living in New York when I
Okay.
when I finished that, and then sent it to some little zines that reviewed cassettes, and uh, people were reviewing that. And then, with those little reviews, places like Option, Sound Choice, those zines that were strictly for alternative music. There was not anything like Rolling Stone or anything like that, but
Oh, okay.
a
Yeah.
lot of people read those, a lot of musicians,
Oh,
home
okay.
recording people in bands. And so I started to get some response from those
Huh.
people about maybe buying a tape. And so I started sending tapes to people or exchanging tapes with
All right.
others who were making tapes.
That's great. So now were you selling many at first, or was it just,
Well, it was never a whole lot. I mean, to
yeah,
me, it was nice because anybody even wanted such a thing, but I would sell them for a few dollars, put it in a and I was duping the cassettes one at a time
Oh,
myself on a double deck that I had. And none of this was done professionally.
right.
And there was no professional mixing, there was no professional recording,
Yeah,
there
well,
was
it's homemade
no
music.
nothing like that,
Yeah,
and no professional duplication. And so, but that was what was accepted at the time. That was what people knew, that they weren't
right,
looking for a high-end product. And also you could make your own covers, you could make Xerox covers, you could, make your own art and stick it together however you liked. And nobody
right.
was expecting a high-end glossy product. And that's what was encouraging, I think, to many people who didn't have access to the so-called music world. I mean, and so for me, that was the perfect time to start doing something, to start
Yeah.
writing, to start recording songs.
Yeah, that's like the 4-track machine just changed everything for a
Oh, it
lot of
did. It
independent
did.
artists like yourself and other people doing music because you're
Hmm.
right, you didn't have to pay a lot of money to a studio. You could
No,
do it all
and
yourself.
nope. And I, whatever response I received was fine. Of any of those tapes that were made and sold that way through the mail, I don't think there were 100 made of each
Yeah. Oh
during
yeah.
the whole time I
Okay.
was doing it. I'm sure I didn't do 100 tapes of each. That it was probably a little under 100 or maybe
Oh,
50. I don't even remember, but it wasn't it wasn't a huge amount.
uh,
But seemingly the response from it was greater than the
y-
quantity of it.
yeah,
In a way, in a
you've
way.
really yeah, you've really made a name for yourself with this type of music. Now, what did you like? Did you take a break from music for a while and then come back
I
into it?
did. I did in 2001. I recorded an album at a artist residency. Well, I was there for a month. It was in upstate New York,
Okay.
called the Malay Colony, and I went there specifically to try to to do an album. And so that's what I did the whole album up there and released it myself on CD in 2001. But at the same time, I was also getting back into painting
Oh,
and
okay.
taking painting classes and things like that, just very informally. And um, after I put that album out myself and sent some copies around and even had a little distribution for it, I didn't actually decide not to do music anymore. I just decided that I'd rather that to put more time into painting, and
Okay.
music was never something that I decided not to do anymore. It just became less of an interest.
Okay. And then I mean when everything went digital, all the digital music now, you really hit your stride with Bandcamp. I mean, I went on your site, it's like all these physical copies are like sold out. So you really
Well, again, I hadn't, even on Bandcamp, I haven't sold that many
okay.
uh, things. It sold out because there were limited copies of it. Um, the stuff that was put out by Captured Tracks, the vinyl albums, I don't control that, how that's sent out. They take care of those,
Okay. Well, that's good.
fulfilling those orders. So I'm not entirely sure how many of those they've sold, because I don't oversee that. But I know from my own experience and re-releasing the old cassettes or releasing something new on cassette or on a single,
Right.
it's still not a huge amount.
But it's enough where people see it. You go on your site, it says sold out, so it's good. And then
Well,
how about the Bandcamp digital copies? Are they buying people buying those? To
there's a fair amount of those, but I don't get a whole lot of download sales.
okay,
I myself am not a download buyer. I don't, if I buy something, it might be vinyl or CD, personally. So I don't expect people to be buying these things in huge amounts or anything.
right.
I mean, it's not the fact that somebody orders it and then they get it in the mail. It's kind of similar to it's just going through a website
Right.
now, instead of through the request through the mail.
Now, does all the distributor captured tracks, they sell all of your uh, vinyl records now? I mean, that you say you
The
get an
vinyl
order?
album, the
Oh,
vinyl albums that they've put out, they take care of those.
okay, good. So that's great. You have a distributor to take care of that. Now, how was your luck with record labels? Harriet, Slumberland, are you still working with them?
Well, no, I mean Harriet's kind of has come back, and they're on Bandcamp too. Tim is re-releasing things and releasing new things.
Okay.
I think since the past year, he decided to start that up again as a CD label. I don't think he does vinyl anymore, but he was basically a 7-inch
Oh, I see.
um,
Okay.
person and did a lot of 7-inches in the 90s. And Slumberlands, they're going strong. They do a lot of vinyl
Okay.
releases of new bands, and they're continuing. And
That's
you might see their releases quite a bit out there on the internet, and their bands are out there touring. And it's probably, it looks to me like it's going more strong than ever, than
that's
even in the
great.
90s. So, and back then, back in the 90s, Slumberland was also, I think I would say, more into the 7-inch releases than a lot of those small labels in the 90s were very much into the 7-inch releases.
Oh,
Now,
okay.
these days, not so much. It's more about releasing vinyl or even cassette.
Yeah. It's a
Um,
big investment for a label to put out a vinyl record.
it is, but since vinyl came back
Yes.
out of the blue, there is a limited demand for vinyl albums by newer bands
Yep.
and reissues.
Well, I think you do. Did you do any sales? Did you sell the records on your tour? Where you have a?
Well, not so much in Italy. I couldn't really. It was a lot to take stuff like
Oh,
that
I'm sure.
with me, and I really didn't know what the response would be, or who would be interested in buying anything like that there. I just didn't know, so I didn't want to invest in paying cost and taking a bunch of records that I would have to take from one place to another. And you want to travel light when you
Oh, I'm
go when you
sure. I'm
travel,
sure for
and
that.
especially if you're not driving your own car and can keep them there,
Yeah. Yeah,
and
that's
not
yeah, you don't want to take
constantly
a lot of
removing
stuff.
them.
You're right.
No, and I mean, when I've done the tour we did in last September in on the West Coast, there were a fair amount of vinyl buyers. I mean, I think it
Okay.
was worth it there, but you really have to think, uh, is it, or am I going to have enough time to sit at the merch table, or people are going to come to I mean,
It's
there,
hard.
and when I went to Philadelphia, I sold a few. That was I forget when that was, when we did. Oh, it was last June or July. Um, we did Philadelphia, and another show with a Slumberland group called the Umbrellas, and
Okay.
was able to sell a few there. But it just depends on the situation.
Yeah.
I don't know, as Italy is big on merch tables, but uh, you know, you really have to be organized and have a presence there to say this is the merch table. And
Right. That's
but
true.
in this country, the merch table is expected. And I think in Japan there's probably going to be more of a situation like that.
Is that who you're working with now? Mostly Slumberland? Is that the label now that's releasing?
No, no, the reissues are all on captured tracks. I haven't
Okay.
worked with Slumber. I worked with
Okay.
Slumberland since
Well. Oh,
1991 or
okay.
whatever. So, but I've been in touch with Mike there, and I went to one of their anniversary show that was
Oh,
down in
okay.
DC a little while ago. So it was, it's my name's connected with it for one single
Okay.
and a compilation that he did called Why Pop Stars Can't Dance. There was a couple of songs on that.
I find I've worked with record labels in the past, independent, and for me, it's been like one and done because, my
Mm-hmm.
styles change every record. So
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, I'm not going to be doing the same record twice. So that's
Right, right.
very hard to sell
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
after that.
I see it as usually I mean for new stuff as a one kind of time kind of
Yep.
situation. I don't see it as a continuing contractual situation. The thing with Capture Tracks is that contract was sold specifically for reissues of old material.
Oh, okay.
I'm not contracted with them to do anything new, to do a
Oh,
new
okay.
album. I mean, I might try to interest them in that, but I'm not that's not part of the deal. And
Got it.
so I did an album with my friend Nancy Andrews in 2023, and we found a label, Grapefruit, and two labels, Grapefruit and Gertrude, in Omaha to release it. Now,
Oh,
as far
okay.
as, and that's one of those, the person who runs Grapefruit label is Simon Joyner, who is also an artist, a writer, and a musician. And he himself tours quite frequently and is pretty well known
Yeah,
as
I
a
know him.
singer-songwriter. And he releases a lot of his own music, and always has. So it's very much if you have something new, you find somebody or a label or two to put it out. I
Yeah.
don't expect there's no contract for new music that I have with
Okay.
anyone
So
except for
what?
myself.
So are you working on new music now? Are you still
Oh
writing
yeah,
music?
yes,
So
yes. Uh-huh.
what's what new you're going to be coming out with as far as recordings?
Well, I don't have any specific plans. I
Okay.
just want to do an album of new songs, and I started on that um, recently, and I have some ideas down, but I don't have any specific future ideas of where it's going to end up. I mean,
Got it.
it's like it always was. You make an album. I could release it myself. I could maybe release it with Luigi in Italy
Yeah, you have a
as
lot
a
of
co-release.
connections now, so that's great.
There's places that might want to do it, and I just see that as the that's not the creative part of this. You want it to be out there. You want people to hear it. You want people to be able to access it, and that's kind of the secondary part of all this.
Okay.
And I try not to think about that while I'm working on something.
So you're planning to do, I see, a East Coast tour coming up?
Yeah, in June or early in June, from the 4th to the 10th
Are you playing
of June.
solo or do you have a band with
No,
you?
I have band people with me.
Oh, okay.
And this time, usually I perform with two others, a drummer and bass player, guitar, keyboard person. And but this time we're gonna put together a four piece, a real four piece, and
Oh, okay.
really the songs will be much more filled out than they have been. Although it works really well with a three piece, I think, because the songs are pretty simple. They're not overly orchestrated, but I think certain things will just be more vibrant, perhaps more there'll be more sound.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's coming up pretty quick, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, June,
Hmm.
before you know it, it's June already. Boy, the
Yeah, we're getting
time has
there.
really flown by.
Yes, we're getting there.
Wow. So that is great that you're still playing, playing shows live. So it's quite a success here, Linda, that you're still doing it.
Well, it took a while. I wasn't doing this for a long time, about 20 years, but you can come back, and you go away and you come back and
Maybe
and
that's
do whatever
good
you
because then
want.
people don't remember you. Then all of a sudden you're back, and then you create a little stir. Hey, I like your music, and then the rest happens.
Well, it's great. I have no complaints so far. I mean, it might be nice to win the lottery. That would be helpful, but you
Yeah,
know, that would help a lot of artists to have more financial resources. But
that's
you
true.
just
You're
do
right.
you do what you think you can do in the moment, and try to do that
Yeah,
when
I
you
can't
can.
afford to put out vinyl anymore. I just do either CD or just put it on Bandcamp right now.
Right, right. I think a lot of people are doing just digital, and
Yeah,
because they don't, you know, they may have more in the way of download fans, people who will buy downloads. It just depends on the group, the people, the people who listen to them, things like that.
I'm
How
having
well
more
they
fun.
know.
I'm having more
Mhm.
fun doing this right now. The music has just been
Um,
such an incredible journey with all the artists I've spoken to. I never really thought about doing this many, but people
well,
want to
but
do it.
things get on a roll, Dennis. Like, do you find it inspiring to talk to all these different people?
Oh,
Does it make you want,
absolutely.
does it make you want to do music again?
Well, yeah, I've started doing some music again, the more electronic music that I've always loved.
Hmm.
But this takes a lot of time because you have to prepare for this. You have to do the YouTube after with the description. It's time consuming, but I think I'm getting an audience of people that want to hear these artists like yourself, and I'm not limiting to just a certain genre. Yeah, I just want
Uh-huh.
creative people, creative
Hmm.
artists. I
Right,
think you have to
right.
keep it that way. If you have limited to just one style, maybe it gets more viewers, but I don't know. That's what I'm doing
Yeah.
anyway.
Well, I think you're right into to being a little more varied, because a lot of different people will access your channel than, say, somebody who's just dedicated to heavy metal or whatever.
Right.
I think music is more than just genre, and the more overlap you have in interest as a listener, I think is the best.
Right.
I don't know how people just listen to one genre of music, but they do,
It's
and
right.
that's them.
It could be a little scary at times, though, when you're talking to like a Phil Manzanera from Roxy Music. That's a pretty big
Oh
heavyweight.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
some of
yeah.
those earlier podcasts, I was kind of like nervous about how it was
Well,
going
of
to
course.
go. But
Hmm.
I
I
seem to
mean,
make,
what if
go
you
ahead.
had the chance to interview Paul McCartney? How would
Oh, I
that
don't know
how would
about
that go?
that. Well, funny story. Nancy Chevelle, his wife, I went to high school with
Oh wow!
in
Oh, you got a
Edison.
connection right there. You have a
Yeah, J.P.
connection.
Stevens High School in Edison.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that something?
Mm-hmm.
She
That's
was a
amazing.
she
That's
was
a
a
little
year
something.
younger.
Uh-huh. Did you know her then?
Yeah, I knew her in high school.
Okay.
I don't
That's
know. I
wild.
know exactly where she used to live.
That's pretty wild.
Isn't that wild? And then I
Well,
think,
Paul might want to do an
well,
interview. I would.
there's a town, Metuchen, New Jersey,
Uh-huh.
and about 6 months ago, he was seen walking on Main Street in Metuchen. I guess because Nancy Chevelle must have come back and wanted to see her old neighborhood or something. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if she'd know me anymore. Who knows?
Well, it might be worth a try.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see
Your
what
audience would
happens.
expand. Your audience would expand
Yeah,
beyond
oh, I'm
belief.
sure. But I like to talk to not the big stars in the band, but the people in the groups because they have
Uh-huh.
another angle and stories
Yeah,
to
right. Mm-hmm.
what they're experiencing working with
Mm-hmm.
these stars. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that angle people may want to hear. And there's people I'm talking to that nobody even knows about anymore or wouldn't
Yeah.
even think about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, but it's been great you've been able to do this, Linda. Thanks for coming back. I know we had some issues the last time, and I couldn't put it up with all that
Oh, I know.
problems. It's been impossible
Visual
to,
disturbances and such, and sound problems.
right. So,
Well, I think
go ahead.
this conversation, I think, maybe went even better. It was a little bit
You
more. I
did.
was a little more. I was a little more focused because I knew I was getting a little more prepared. So
Great. Oh, you were. And thank you for coming on. And where can we find your music? On Bandcamp mostly? Is that
that's and if people if people do Spotify and
okay?
listen to Spotify, as a lot of people do, it's on Spotify.
Okay. So I have your Bandcamp link. So maybe send over your Spotify link and then
Okay.
captured tracks also where they can
Mm-hmm.
find it. And then I'll
That's
put it
where
in
they
the
can buy it.
description.
All right.
All right,
That
Linda.
sounds great.
Thank you.